chance, given our audience to come back. So let's start our last session of the Key Art Conversation program. And I take this chance because I would think our very rich panel can extend. So thank you for all of you being here, and our special thanks also to the organization, the Galleries Association of Korea, the Gallery Weekend team, Gallery Weekend Korea's team, for commissioning us this new program of talks, talking galleries. So we just moved to our last session. We changed subject, yes. Now it's communication in the artwork, how to promote your project effectively. And we have the pleasure to have also people from the West and the East. We've been talking also early this morning. And two approaches, let's say. We will have two main institutions to being represented here, and two also region PR agencies. Our moderator is Seoul-based. Maybe many of you already know him. He will introduce to our speakers. Hongchul. Byun is director of the art consulting office Graywall, based here in Seoul, and he's also professor at the Dongduk Women's University in the curatorial study and art management. Okay. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, Belle, thank you, Kingsley, Erika, and Rebecca. So Rebecca and Belle we know already from our Barcelona event, and where we are based. Erika and Kingsley, thank you very much for joining us first time coming from Hong Kong to share your experience. Thank you.
네, 한국말하고 영어를 조금 섞어서 드렸는데요. 이 네 분의 소개를 먼저 본문으로 드리도록 하겠습니다. 저희 나티비다드는 마케팅 디렉터로 바르셀로나 마크바에서 오셨습니다. 다음으로 킹슬리 자야스케라 그분은 마케팅하고 커스터머 익스피리언스 디렉터로 지금 홍콩에 있는 웨스트 컬처 디스트릭트에서 디렉터 마케팅을 담당하고 있습니다. 그리고 세 번째로 모신 전문가로는 메리카 슈, 어시스턴트 VP 디렉터로 현재 홍콩에서 일을 하고 계시고요. PR은 아스파저 항공을 비롯해서 이주의 메이저 기획사들의 PR을 진행하고 계십니다. 그리고 마지막으로 리베카 타일러는 Executive Vice President FITZ 런던 베이스의 PR 회사로 많은 예술 프로젝트들을 홍보를 하고 계십니다. 그래서 이 네 분의 전문가를 모시고 한 분씩 자기들이 진행하고 있는 어떤 커뮤니케이션 방법들에 대한 프레젠테이션을 저희가 10분씩 모셔 듣도록 하겠습니다. Yes, please.
Hello. Yes, thank you so much for being here. Just an introduction of my museum. I'm here representing MACBA, the Contemporary Art Museum of Barcelona, opened in 1995. As a new feature this year, we are launching a new permanent display of the collection. With nearly 6,000 works, I think this will give us a chance to communicate in a better, more efficient way. So let's talk about efficient communication. I think you will find thousands of definitions of communication, and I'm sure all of us will have different opinions about it. But in my professional experience, in my humble opinion, when we talk about communications, we talk about sales. Oh yes, welcome to sales. I think we need to recognize that we want to sell. I think we need to define really well what we sell. We need to find different ways, we need to find the people who can be interested in what we sell, and we need to find the different ways to let them know. So, this so simple definition, I know, so simple definition should be linked with reality, with the time to market demand that we have today. And should be linked with marketing strategy, with communication strategy, with social media, with CRM, with social CRM actually now, with advertising campaigns across all media channels, digital, traditional, paid, search. So, while I was preparing this presentation, I thought it would be great if I could give you, in my experience, 3 key factors that are important to an effective and efficient communication. So, let's talk about it. This happens more or less 3 weeks ago in Barcelona. This is a gallery press conference event. And they had a guy, 1 hour and a half like this, going on Instagram stories, and just 5 people joined the conversation. And one of me welcomed me. So, we all know that we have limited resources. And this is why we need to take the time to get the full picture of the project prior to doing any resource allocation. I think in this case, it would have been better to prepare in advance some codes, figures, statements, and share it via Twitter. Or maybe, if the institution of the association wants to prioritize Instagram, it would have been better to share a picture with all the galleries, all the gallery owners, or maybe the artists, and mention them in Instagram. So, once we do the allocation, having in mind our objectives, we will define some tiers of prioritization of importance. Here you can see the social media map of MACBA in 2015 versus 2016, and you see different tiers of importance for us, because we know that we cannot apply the same care, the same resource to each of all our platforms. Second fact, target. And by target, I mean the customers that we already have, and Mr. Seoul. Let me explain. It's not by me, you can read it also everywhere, but acquiring a new customer, a new client, is anywhere between 5 and 20% more expensive than just retaining the ones we already have. So, the thing is that we are so focused on getting new clients, new visitors, new customers, that we really failed on effectively address the need to retain those we already have. So please focus on retaining customers, clients, and visitors. And also Mr. Seoul, search engine optimization. It's not anymore about gaming the system, it's about adding value to your website through relevant content, through regular content, regular publishing, and valuable content. So in the new project of MACBA, the new website, we'll have user and SEO on the same level of importance. So have in mind always, Mr. Seoul. Last one, personalization. I will give you 3 examples regarding email marketing, events, and Twitter ads. We have increased our CT-aware opening rate from 13 to 38%, just adding your name to the email. Here you say my name, Belle. Dear Belle, we wait you. We are thrilled to invite you to the next Thursday, this Thursday, to the opening of our exhibition. From 13 to 38%, just adding the name. Once we organize events, as a museum, we organize thousands of visits, free visits. For this reason, a lot of people doesn't come the day of the event. So just sending him an email, her an email, a message, just call them and say, Dear Belle, so happy to see you this Thursday. Please have in mind that this is just a visit for 25 people, and we have a waiting list. In case you cannot come, or in case you are not able to visit us, please let us know. We have increased the visit from 8 to 25 people, which is the maximum group that we make with a visit. And now we have much closer relations with the people. I remember last week, a woman called us saying, I'm so sorry, I had pneumonia. And my mom, oh, absolutely, more than welcome. And in the last case, Twitter ads. I see that it's so too small, different copies that we do the art. We do this action always 2 days prior of an opening to acquire new followers, but we personalize this action. So when we have a new follower, we say, Dear Belle, Thanks for following us. We will be more than happy to welcome you this next Thursday to our opening. So please let us know your details and we will send you an invitation. So with this personalization of the art, what we acquire is a new follower, a new lead, and a new visitor. And normally they come with the art. We have two visitors. So to sum up, real quick, we have talked about resources and to take the time to really properly allocate them. We have talked about target, meaning to retain customers and list the sale. We have talked about personalization, but please let me give you an example that has nothing to do with the art sector. The other day I saw the Instagram of Contemporani. Contemporani is a fashion blogger, I think one of the most important in the world, with 15 million followers in Instagram. She married 1 month ago, and she went to Paris to the Fashion Week. The hotel where she stayed took a picture of her Instagram and put him through in the maid room and in the master bedroom, with friends, in the bathroom, in the salon, everywhere in her room. She was so excited, so happy about this surprise. She shared this in Instagram story, I don't know how many times. Return of investment of this action for Hyatt Paris, I don't know, cost 0. So sometimes, this explains to me, or this says to me that personalization is not always about resources, it's about creativity, it's about passion. And this key passion multiplies is the real seed for me of an effective and efficient communication. So thank you so much.
다음으로 킹슬리의 발표를 듣도록 하겠습니다. 아까 말씀드린 것처럼 이분은 그 웨스트 콜룬 구용 그 문화 디스트릭트의 마케팅을 맡고 계십니다.
So I'm here from Hong Kong, from the West Canton Cultural District project. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the project before we get into the marketing, because that's my job, to market, and you are my potential audience, so you have to listen to that to get a bit about the project. Just a little bit of understanding. We're talking about a 40-hectare site, which includes
Sorry for the inconvenience. Vice worship.
So anyway, here's about the West Hamilton Cultural District, which is a district in Hong Kong, cultural district. This is an area of 40 hectares of reclaimed land. 40 hectares of reclaimed land on the park. Just to give you an idea of what we're building, as you can see, it's a massive undertaking. It includes a large amount of cultural facilities, the ones that are marked in the lighter colours, as well as offices, retail, residential. Within it, there are a number of anchor institutions, cultural institutions, including theatres, green spaces, and 2 museums, most importantly the M+ Museum and the Hong Kong Palace Museum. So, as you can see, if you look at the M+, the M+ is in a key position there, right in the centre of the district. And M+ is basically a museum that's dedicated to visual culture. That means visual art, design and architecture, and moving image. The whole site, as I say, is 40 hectares, but there's 23 hectares of open space. Just to give you an idea of its position, this is earlier construction footage, but it gives you an idea of the location of M+, right on the harbour, and you can see the design. The 2 buildings at the back, one is a storage facility in the conservation area and offices, and the main museum is in the horizontal slab. And this is a big museum, this is 60,000 square metres, so it's a substantial museum. And within it, it has, as you'd expect, large gallery spaces. It actually digs down around the railway that runs on the side, the excavates around. The architects are Hongchul and Byun, who are the architects who did Kingsley. But in the meantime, in the last few years, we've been very, very busy establishing M+ as a brand and as a museum. So that work has been going as we grow the collection. The collection at the moment is around 6,000 works. And it will keep growing. And we've been doing exhibitions in the pavilion. And a part of this really goes into what you end up talking about when you talk about how you build your marketing identity and communication strategy. So a large part of this is about establishing the work you do, but also about starting to build a brand identity. So an element of brand is very, very important. We also know that brands are often spoken about, they appear through their logos, and very, very well known. This establishment of an identity becomes very, very important. The reason being that you need to get an identity that allows people to understand who you are, what you bring, but at the same time also allows the flexibility to show off the content. If it's too much towards the brand and not about the content, it face risks. If it's too much about the content and not enough about the brand, it face risks. And sometimes those relationships shift. Sometimes, for example, whatever the museum is more significant than the content. Sometimes the content is more significant than the museum. These relationships change quite a lot, and they can change even in a single institution. The role of a gallery or an institution supporting a new artist is very different than the role of a museum presenting a major name like Anne Warhol. So what was key to this idea is really about your presence, and what becomes clear is that you are with the website. The website is a central focus. More and more institutions, your website is for people who are visiting from all around the world. It is your central marketplace, and it is very, very important. And the reason why it's important is it's the one bit of real estate in the digital world that you truly control. Social media is important, but you do not own it or control it. You can do what you like on Facebook, but at the end of the day, it's not your platform. Same with Instagram, same with any of these platforms. Often the website still remains that central point. Even though in many other areas, websites are less important, for institutions, they often really do matter. They become a repository of detail or history. They become your archive. And most importantly, when you're talking about brands in terms of institutions, you have a global reach. Many of the people who visit the website for MoMA or Tate will never go to those museums, or may not for many years. But they are still an important audience that you have to reach out to. And you have to consider how that richness is shown. The great thing about museums is they tend to make use of their content again and again. So they're recycling that content, representing it in new ways, recontextualizing it. It's now become expected that you are often showing your collection online, again, for people to engage with. Certain museums are actually allowing people to share these works, do more of this topic in terms of ownership and copyright. So it's an important issue of how do you actually kind of present your work. And there's a balance of this to say, how much do you want to show online, and how much do you want to drive people to experience those works in real life. Our ambition in the long term is to have every one of our works available online. More and more there's a desire to have them available in very, very high resolution. There are museums around the world that have made their content fully available to everyone. We are making elements of our collection available to people to look at in terms of the metadata, so that people can look at the metadata, they can do their own information searches, they can play with that content, they can connect things in interesting ways. And more, I think you'll see globally museums collecting together all this metadata, so that for the customer or the public, they can get an overview of an artist's work by getting an insight of all the works that exist by an artist, no matter where they are. And so obviously, by extension, you have to take that work out to people, because websites are a location, they're a destination. So you have to drive people to that destination. And that's where social media increasingly becomes more and more important. So for example, how you use social media to push people to understand more about your collections. For example, there's a story up here by a photographer from Hong Kong, Kowloon. And in the end, it reached 197,000 people. It had 16,000 clicks to story. It had 1,000 shares. These are very, very good numbers. So people sharing that content. And this goes back to the fundamental idea of marketing as well. More and more marketing is becoming personal. It's like personal stories. The principle behind marketing has often always been, the magic goal has always been word of mouth. Someone tells you something. That person used to be your friend, it used to be your family. Nowadays it's other people, it's people you trust and listen to. I just want to kind of talk a little bit about this idea of where you are in marketing. I don't want to go into marketing theory too heavy, but this classic bell curve that exists about adoption. This relates to technology adoption, but it can be applied in many ways. It applies to technology adoption in terms of any new technology. There are the innovators, the early adopters, the early majority, the late, and the laggards. Whether it's mobile technology, whether it's anything new, how do these things filter through? And this is an interesting point of view. But this also applies to what we do. It applies to art too. If you imagine at the point of view, artists work their way through a similar curve. They work their way. Monet has worked his way fully through that curve. Even the laggards will know who Monet was. Picasso. But artists in recent years, transitioning Andy Warhol, working his way through from being something only understood by innovators and early adopters, now moving through that curve, being understood more. Damien Hirst. And we've seen this tremendous transformation. And the reason why this is important is understanding who your market is, who you're aiming at. You know, if you're talking about a new artist, you don't have to talk to everybody. You have to talk to the right people. You have to influence those people. You don't need everybody to come, you need the right people to come. If you're doing a blockbuster and you're promoting an exhibition that has a huge target on it, you have to consider how you're communicating in a different way. And you have to consider how people are adopting technology and how you might allow technology to come in. We were at the Museum of Contemporary Art, and I found it quite interesting because obviously South Korea is an incredibly digital-focused country. But interesting enough, you still have the traditional audio guides with the numbers on the wall. Now, many museums, I think, are returning back to this because it's acceptable to everybody. You can do a lot with beacons. We track people using beacons. But at the end of the day, I don't really need to know through technology where I am. I'm standing in front of an artwork. I can just use numbers and I can go, that's what I'm looking at. So this idea, but by going down some of these technology routes, you're alienating certain groups of people. And that can really matter. It can matter if you have a public mission, because you have to reach out to all sections of society. It can matter if your user base are not used to technology. I often have a problem whereby I deal with people who are very important, but they always seem to have the oldest mobile phones, and they don't know how to work them. So going back to this idea of audiences and this curve, how do you segment your audience? So you have to break them down into types. This idea of stereotypes. This is a segmentation model that we developed in Hong Kong that I worked on. And this divided audiences into different groups. And we looked at a number of factors. Age and how much they attended. And we grouped them together. We also looked at their attitudes. Some of these people wanted to always go to the right thing, the sure thing. Other people wanted to be right out on the edge. They wanted to do the new thing. Some people wanted to be the person who told their friends what was the cool thing to do. Other people wanted to say, I've seen whatever everybody else is talking about. Some people were concerned about how much it costs. Some people wanted to go with groups, socially. So they would go with a group of friends. Some people were just intent on going on their own. Understanding those segments becomes more and more important. And also, as we talk about that bell curve, we now talk about this idea that the importance of engaging these people, the beginning, the early adopters, the innovators, more and more this concept of KOLs, this idea of how you engage in people, amplifying that word of mouth, engaging people so that they will speak on your behalf and talk to their fans about what's happening. And it's a very, very important relationship that needs to be understood. Why does it matter? Because ultimately a lot of this is about trust. You have to have a certain level of trust. People are investing their money, their time, they have to have a sense of trust in what they get. If you betray that trust, they will move on. Trust is very, very important. And trust is built on a few things, I would say. It's based on reliability. If you imagine like a friend, the trust is based on reliability. Are they reliable? Do they say what they're going to do, and do they do what they're going to say? Are they credible? Do they know what they're talking about? And this is very important. Intimacy. Not just the reliability, but how much do they actually know and care about you? If it's all one way, I have friends who are experts, and they're very credible, but they don't listen to anything I have to say. How much are they feeding back the other way? And this is an important thing that we see in arts and culture a lot. Trust can be undermined by self-orientation. At the end of the day, often artists, organisations often talk a lot and they say, it's all about me. I'm going to tell you what matters to me now, and I expect you all to listen. It was no longer going to be the way that we operate in the future. People expect to have two-way conversations. And the reason why trust matters is because risk is important. Risk is what gets people to try. If you're willing to take a risk because you trust someone, no different. Going to a restaurant. Do I go to the same restaurant I always go to, or do I go to a new restaurant? If I go to a new restaurant, I have an exciting, new, innovative experience, but I have to trust the person who told me to go. Otherwise, it's just risk. And it may be a double risk, because I have to persuade someone to come with me. And that person has to persuade me. This is why we do a lot of work around sharing content. We produce videos so we can share them. We did a lot of work in London on this, where we would do a video, and we encourage people to share it. So that people go, I'm going to this crazy piece of contemporary dance. I don't know how to explain it to you, but have a look at this video. And you look at them, look at that, and make a decision. And that encourages people to take risks. And the difference between, certainly often between art and entertainment, is risk. This is why, for example, these things become important. How we're engaging with people. Not just about how we sell, but how do we keep the conversation going on in between the things that we're saying? Effectively, we're always selling, but that doesn't mean we're doing it in a very loud way. We have to be keeping the conversation going. If you only heard from a friend every time you wanted you to buy something, they would not be your friend. If you hear from the people and they're telling you what they're doing, engaging you, then you might be interested, but they remind you to do something. So this is why this communication is very important. But as I said, the important point is also, you don't own it, and we're already seeing shifts in Facebook where they're moving towards more personalised connections. They want more personalised stories. They do not want to hear from firms and institutions. So we're going to have to shift our approach more and more. And in the future, we're moving towards this idea of the 360-degree view of the customer. The centralized CRM approach, which means that everything we do is tied together. Your record is there. So we know that you come to an event, but we also know what you complain about. We don't know what you are unhappy about. We take this information. We know you're a member. We know you're a donor. We know that you maybe like to go to these restaurants. This complete view of the customer is very, very important and is growing. And there's an element that's risky because on the one hand, it can be quite intimidating. We know all this. But then on the other hand, if I go to a gallery 3 or 4 times a year, I'd like to be remembered. I'd like people to treat me like they know who I am. And you can't remember everybody, but the data can help manage that. It means you can greeted appropriately. It means you can be told about things that you want to hear about. It means they don't resell you the stuff you've already decided to do. But it has to be done with tech. So I'll end with a few golden rules for communication. Don't assume customer knowledge. A lot of times people assume that the audience they're talking to know everything and they're talking in that way. Don't assume customer knowledge, but don't assume that when you're selling, it's the same as doubling down. You don't have to talk to people like they're children, but many people do not know about certain things. That does not mean they're incapable of understanding it. You just have to understand, clearly communicate what it is. Be honest. If you're dishonest, you may get a short-term gain, but you have a long-term loss. That's why trust is important. Talk to your audience, not your peers. Many people write text because they're concerned about the people immediately around them, not their target audience. You have to figure that out, who you're aiming at, who is the audience you're going for. There is nothing wrong with writing copy on a leaflet that is pretentious and hard to understand if your target audience likes things that are pretentious and hard to understand. But you have to also recognize if you want to reach a wider audience, you have to adjust to write the most appropriate to your audience. Stand out from other people. A lot of people feel comforted by going, oh, I want an identity, I want a style that fits in, I want it to look like Mona, I want it to look like Kate. You've got to be prepared for how you're going to stand out. PR and marketing messages must be linked. You have to tie these things together, otherwise you're working against each other. They don't have to do the same thing, they have to be connected. How you work with the media and how you work with marketing has to be. Match your messages to your marketing. I've really kind of said this, but I'm going to say it again. Who are you writing? Match your images carefully with text. A lot of times people separate the two. The text they write has no connection with the images have no connection with the text. Make sure the two of them work together. And structure your text to be read from the audience perspective. A lot of text I see starts off with giving you all the background, the institution, the curators. Everything is written from the point of view of that side, and the audience is forgotten about. Start with what the audience will engage with first, then tell them about who the curators are. Now, obviously, these rules can adjust sometimes, but it's best to know what does the audience experience first, rather than doing the other way around. That's all.
지금까지는 2개 기관 분들을 모시고 그 기관에서 커뮤니케이션하는 방법들에 대해서 얘기를 들어봤고요. 앞으로 모실 2분은 그 미술 전문 홍보 PR 회사입니다. 그래서 그 2분을 모시고 또 이야기를 좀 듣도록 하겠습니다.
so that it wasn't exactly the same.
So good afternoon, everyone. I would love to give you a little bit background about myself and the agency I'm working with, because Bella and Kingsley obviously come from institution background, but I'm coming from agency. So yeah, just want to give you a little bit background before I start. So I've been working in arts PR for more than a decade now. I'm one of the founding members of Sutton's Hong Kong office 7 years ago. Before joining Sutton, I was working in a lifestyle PR agency, and at that time there was no such thing called PR agency, arts PR agency in Hong Kong. And I remember back in more than 10 years ago, when Art Hong Kong launched in Hong Kong, which was a fair later bought by Art Basel. There were very few arts writers in Hong Kong. I remember I needed to explain to journalist ladies by calling them and explaining to them what is an art fair. Things like, oh yes, this is for public. Yes, public can buy tickets to come and see it. Oh yes, you can buy artworks inside the art fair. You may find it ridiculous now, but it was something I did more than 10 years ago when we first had an international art fair in Hong Kong. So today, in Sutton, I'm handling clients including art fairs such as Art Basel, galleries including the Goshen and some homegrown Hong Kong galleries, institutions, museums such as the largest private museum in Hong Kong, which is called the Univ Museum, and also another museum opening in Hong Kong next March, which is called CHAT, stands for Center for Heritage Arts and Textile, aims to weave contemporary art with rich textile industry of Hong Kong. And also Auction House, Taipei Biennial, and more. So you can see actually that our scene has become more diversified in the city compared with that more than 10 years ago. So I'm so glad today I have an opportunity here to share my experience and also exchange ideas with all the speakers today. So, what is PR? So what is PR? Public relations is about communicating with and also engaging with a wide range of audience. The topic for today is how to communicate project effectively in the art world. So keywords here are communications and effectiveness. Communications is not just about spreading words or visuals, but the content. And effectiveness is about whether the set goals or the results are achieved. The role of a PR is to act as a bridge between client and media. Just now, Kingsley has explained sometimes the press materials or marketing materials to the audience are too complicated. So our role is to help our clients to understand what they offer are. Our clients would include art fairs, biennials, museums, institutions, galleries, not-for-profit organizations, philanthropists, corporates, foundations, luxury brands, and a lot more than you can ever think of. Each one of them is an expert in their field, but when it comes to communications, they all have very different objectives. One of the key roles for us is to help them to understand what their offers are, and for instance, what are the key messages they really want to deliver to what key messages they want to deliver, and how competitive their offers are. We will then help them to distillate their messages into simpler terms to ensure the messages are concise and clear. Apart from that, we will also need to ensure all communications are clear to the stakeholders. Stakeholders would include senior management, investors, board members, artists, collectors, but the group who would easily be neglected is the staff themselves. That is the PR team in my working environment. This is the most important group, as they are the people who deliver the campaign, who drive the campaign, and they need to understand the project inside out and ensure the whole team are always on the same page throughout the process. Of course, all stakeholders are important. Without some of these stakeholders embracing the objectives of the project may not even be realized, not to mention about success. Another key element in communications is crisis management. For every project, there's always a group of people who do not buy in the ideas or concept. If this group becomes big enough, or if their voice becomes loud enough, it is the time crisis management needs to be implemented. It's always better to be prepared and anticipate the crisis, a potential crisis, than to reactively respond to it when it happens. Planning stage. I would say the planning stage is at the heart of every single project. Well begun is half done. It sets the target audience and then also define goals, which form the basis of preparing strategy of a project. Each project has its individuality and different target audience groups share different interests. By understanding who are our target audience and what goals we want to achieve, we can then work on the key messages and also tailor for each of these groups, and we can decide how we are going to tell the stories and derive a campaign to work accordingly. And during the campaign, constant reviews of progress and essentials, adjustments need to be made in the middle of the campaign, and key moments have to be set at the beginning to ensure the momentum are kept. Different tactics. After the initial planning stage, we have a better idea to define the best channels to deliver the messages. One size doesn't fit all, and it's not always the same way of doing things even for the same client. So paper announcement is still mostly used as it can easily list up all the key information in just a few pages. But it does need to combine with careful plans to ensure the way it is written are the most inspirational and also informative to the target media and audience. The way it is distributed and shared of the highest interest of the media, target media as well. We can also sometimes use events to structure a campaign. Sometimes events are a great means of grouping the right people in the right place, having the messages delivered directly at a key moment of the project timeline by key spokesperson. Guests would even be extended beyond media, in some cases to deliver messages directly to the stakeholders or advocacy and give them a first-person experience to understand the brand, which goes beyond the speech, but also how the event is set up and produced and positioned. In today's world, of course, digital is another effective and efficient way of sharing information. It can reach directly even to the user or the public. People's attention span is very short, so concise messages and strong visuals are key in the digital world. It also includes the best use of keywords, hashtag, link of tags, whether you're going to post. All of these have to be studied and planned carefully. Sometimes we can also consider putting a few tactics together, such as hosting blogging events to have them speaking for our clients and spreading the messages rapidly in the digital world. Knowing your audience. We mentioned about setting key target audience just now, and it's time for us to spend some time learning to learn more about our target audience. What elements in the project make the most relevancy to them? Would the most expensive work ever on sale be of an interest of the university students? Would an attendance of a blue chip artist at this exhibition's opening be something interest of a collector who has started collecting for ages? Would a Chinese artist first museum exhibitions in the US attract an Asian collector to travel and go and see it? All these points need to be considered, and thus we must know the ultimate interest of our target audience. We will then have the basics to decide what materials we need to produce, what moments we want to give out the messages, what channels we want to use to reach out to these target audience. Knowing your media. So the global media landscape is changing. The media in different regions has also their fundamental characteristics. We need to understand how to package our pitching to make it valuable for the journalist. In the art world, the media landscape is more complicated, as the art categories can be subdivided into many more than that in other industries. A journalist will just write about art market-related stories, another writer specializes in visual art, and then some writers are interested in performance art, new media art, ink art, and more. In addition, media interest changes as the art world, also the world change. We must keep up with the trends and the hot topics. So back in decades ago, female artist-focused features were not something of interest. African art may be overshadowed in the mainstream media, and VR and AR work didn't even exist. So another crucial point is to learn about our media's working style when we work with them. What are the best way and time to contact, whether offering exclusivity or interviews are essentials, and what's more important is the language they speak and use. You might be surprised, but this is a key element that's always overlooked. You cannot always expect a journalist to translate your press materials or your marketing materials and write about your project in their own language for you. And it's very important in the project. It may also alter the budget for the project, as we may need to prepare multilingual materials and also arrange translators in the event. For some online platforms nowadays, it's very competing with time. So some of them, they even just paste your press materials or the marketing materials online. Materials targeting these publications have to be even easier to understand, more straightforward and simpler, so they are ready for the public to read. And knowing your industry. Before working on any project, time must be invested on researchers. For PR, reading habits must be maintained, be it the industrial or mass publications or books, to know what's happening in the world and our world. All these due diligence helps us to work on a tailored campaign to provide sensible advice and to prepare for potential issues that may arise. We must be humble and be ready to learn about new things at all times. We cannot only rely on our experience or too much contented with our most successful case studies in the past in order to better equip ourselves to the ever-changing world. After every project, I would say we must measure the success by evaluating the result and compare the angles with what have been said. Always learn from the past, be bad or good, and to find out how we can communicate even better in the future. Thank you.
이제 마지막으로 레베카 타일러, 서튼 PR 런던, 서튼 FITZ 런던에서 오신 분 통해서 말씀을 넣어드리도록 하겠습니다.
Hello everyone. Does this sound okay? I'm thrilled to be here today. I had the pleasure of speaking at Talking Galleries in Barcelona with several other colleagues, and now being last, I'll probably adjust some of the things I was going to say so that we don't repeat ourselves, but when I do, it'll be just to reinforce other things my colleagues have said, because I think we all come from similar but different positions, but are all working towards the same goals, and as you'll hear certain things repeated in these conversations, you'll know we can't all be wrong in what we're doing if we're all on the same page about this. So first, let me just say, my name is Rebecca Taylor. I'm addicted to contemporary art, green tea, and social media. You can follow me at The Real Rebecca Taylor on Instagram, on Twitter, various other places. I'm a big social media advocate. That began naturally and organically and has become a very core component of my job and what I do. And contemporary art is my life's blood. It's, thank God, what I get to do for a living. I don't know how I could possibly be so lucky that I'm able to travel the world and read about art, write about art, and talk about art. But alas, that's what I do. My career began a very long time ago, longer than perhaps it looks. In museums. I started as an art history nerd. I was just absolutely obsessed with art. And the career options at the time were basically curatorial or gallery sales. Those were sort of what everyone thought were the options. And I thought, well, I'll probably go get a PhD and become a curator. But before I do, let me get into the art world and see what's out there. And the first thing I did was apply for this job at MACBA, because literally the job description in PR was read about art, write about art, talk about art. I can do that. I have my master's in modern and contemporary art. I can do those things. And then I'll get in there and I'll see, what do I really want to do? Where do I want to go? And I happen to be so fortunate that it was at a moment when the world was changing. Technology and communications were changing the platforms, the tools, and the importance of PR and marketing. So much, it happened overnight. When I first got to Museum of Contemporary Art, PR didn't even have a seat at the table. By the time I left, we were consulted before an exhibition was titled. We did a lot. Our role evolved over time. And what became really clear to me right away was that nothing works in a silo. You don't just do PR over here, and marketing over here, and development over here, and curatorial back here, and think that it's going to work. You have to do them together. Everything is about being holistic and working together. They're different tools, there's different platforms. I'll talk a lot today about toolboxes, because that's how I think about things. Everything is about what's in our arsenal and how and when do we activate it. But it's all towards the same goal. It's all towards reaching a target audience, though the audience may vary. It's all about delivering a message, though the message may need to be tailored per the platform or per the audience, but all of it needs to be done holistically. When I moved to the Getty, it was about the time that social media was launching, and I was the youngest person with any authority who was willing to stake their reputation and risk on how important social media was, and convince the Board of Trustees that we needed to launch a Facebook and Twitter page back when no one knew what that was in early 2007. So I sort of became a default social media expert. I was doing it very early, and at the time, the social media experts at the various museums were all talking to each other. We formed groups on Twitter, we formed a group called Arts Tech, and we just started asking each other what we were doing and what was working, and actually worked backward in figuring out why it worked later on. It was a very, very interesting time. About the time I moved to MoMA PS1 to be their head of external affairs, running communications, marketing, social media events, working closely on development with the Board of Trustees and pretty much everything we did there. Instagram was launched, so I launched their Instagram and their Tumblr and really pushed the museum forward in that way. So I had a very internal perspective up until about 5 years ago. I knew what it was like to work in-house and have to deal with different stakeholders internally and different priorities and balancing those, but I really was insular. And then I joined an agency called FITZ, and my world changed. I went from working in a museum that had maybe 1, 2, or 3 locations depending on the various museums I've been at over the years, to now I have clients on every continent but Antarctica. Monday I woke up in Turkey, and I went to bed last night in London, and I woke up this morning in Seoul. It's a very exciting and creative and dynamic world we now live in, where everything is more interconnected than ever. So similar to the realization I had in my early 20s that PR, marketing, social media couldn't be done in a silo, now many years later, I can tell you that the world can't work in a silo. You need to think about you, your local audience, your global audience, your global context. When we used to give presentations about marketing, we talked about out of home as being marketing you did in the 3-mile, 10-mile, 50-mile maximum radius around your museum of banners, of subway ads, how you were going to reach people. Now out of home is everything outside of these 4 walls where your work or your product is being produced. And you have to reach everyone, and that is often upwards of 90% of your audience. So it's no longer just local. We have to think about the entire world, but we also have to think about our role in the world and retaining our local identities, as Kingsley was saying. We're not trying to be MoMA. We are whoever we are. We also work with MoMA as well, but when we work with other clients, they often will say, I want to do this just like MoMA did. It's like, but you're not MoMA, and this won't resonate with your audience. Or why attempt to do the same thing with a third of the budget? Let's do something totally different, but that's unique and amazing for you. So today I work at FITZ & Co., which is one of the leading firms specializing in strategy for the arts. We began in 1995. Eric was just describing the situation in Hong Kong 10 years ago, as there being no PR firms dedicated to arts and culture. Similarly, 25 years ago in New York, it was the same thing. Everything was about lifestyle, and it was really just about PR. But over the years, we've seen how PR is just one piece of this much larger puzzle, and how important it is to think about those other puzzle pieces as well. So in 1995, our president started this agency, FITZ & Co. And the first 2 things we did were PR and VIP relations. Our first client was the Venice Pavilion, Viola's Venice Pavilion that year. And our third client was Art Basel in a VIP capacity. Now today we work with them in many, many capacities. And I'll show you an example of a few of those things that we do. But VIP relations, which was about target audiences and engaging an audience, and PR, which was about sending out your messages, were at the time, in 1996, when we started working with them, the top priorities. So what we do for our clients, we help them do whatever they're doing better, and we help them reach more people with what it is they're doing. So a client will come to us, often with a business objective. Sometimes it's about attendance, Sometimes it's about an endowment campaign. Sometimes it's about an expansion. Sometimes it's as simple as promoting an exhibition. It can vary. But what my job is to do is to figure out where they really want to be. Where are we? Where do we want to go? Current versus desired perception and positioning. And then I develop a roadmap. I look in our toolbox and I say, okay, here's how we're going to get there. You're here, you want to be here. Here's how we're going to do it. So there's a list of some of our services, but here's a few of the things in the toolbox that lead to successful communications. PR, which Erica has already dove into quite well, so I don't need to address that. I don't think much further. Digital marketing, that may be, social media campaign, that may be an influencer strategy, audience engagement, VIP, thinking about who our audience is. Sometimes it's the 1%. We just need the right 10 people to be in the room. Sometimes we need 100,000 people to come. So it's figuring out what are the real goals for this particular project. How do we want to get there? Developing a holistic, integrated marketing campaign. I'm talking in a few minutes about one of my favorite things I learned in traditional marketing 101 that I think still applies, the good old marketing trifecta. And really think about making sure that everything you do in marketing, whether it's digital, whether it's out of home, whether it's print ads, all works together. Events. This may be a suite of events that, as I said, are for a small group of people, or for hundreds, or perhaps it's a combination of these. If you're doing a museum opening, and we're sitting with the museum planning 3 years ahead of museum opening, as we're currently doing, as we plan the opening weekend, we need events for every target market. So we need a scholarly symposium to engage fellow curators. We need a special press preview where the media have that early access. We need an influencer preview where social media have the opportunity to take the photos they need in an empty space. We need tours. We need lovely dinners. We need integration of those. And then we need a big blowout party, where everyone can come and varying levels of members' engagements can all come and feel invested. How are we going to engage all of our stakeholders? I loved Kingsley's graph about the different levels of engagement. We had similar charts when we were at MoMA. How engaged is this person? How often do they come? What do they go to? We create these for all of our clients now before they go into a marketing sphere so that you make sure whatever campaign you're creating, you know who you're trying to talk to. Because you'll say different things if we're trying to reach our trustees than we will if we're trying to reach students. And we'll say it in different places because our trustees may read the Financial Times. Well, this audience over here, actually it's best to activate them on Instagram through Paradise. So you really have to go through this process before you do anything. Most of the time, our client will start the conversation with, oh, we'd like more coverage in the New York Times and the FT. That's great. Why? Let's talk about it. That's not wrong. But what is it you want to do with that? Perhaps, actually, the story you want to tell, we can better tell through our own channels. Social media, our website, our newsletter, perhaps an editorial content platform we have. So my job is really to look at our toolbox, figure out what it is we're trying to achieve and what's the best way to get from A to B. And as Kingsley was saying, for every organization, even things they do might be different. So I might have an overarching strategy, a global strategy I've created for our Basel. But then there's certain segments, certain things they do. Each show, our Basel in Hong Kong might have a tailored strategy, while our Basel in Miami Beach has something else. Then beyond them, special initiatives, special programs. You really can't get caught in cookie-cutter thinking anymore. The world is too diverse. Your audience has a cacophony of things in their mailbox, at their feet, on their phones. Everything that you send needs to immediately resonate with the person. So really, really planning before you dive into promotion, I think, is such an important step in the process. So here's the results trifecta that I lived by. It was taught to me 20 plus years ago in school, and I think it is still relevant, just the platforms within them have altered. So the real trifecta is the combination of owned media, earned media, and paid media. So owned media, any channel that you operate and control exactly exactly the language that goes out. Your Facebook page, your Twitter page, your newsletters, your websites. Earned media. In the old days, this was just PR. You can see here a newspaper is there, but this was about getting editorial content. Now it's also about influencer engagement. Earned media now is also, if an Instagrammer posts about you, you've earned that ambassadorship. And that is sometimes even more, has always been thought to be even more effective than owned media. But earned media will not always tell the stories you want to tell. So that's why you have your own channels, to tell the stories that earned media won't tell. And then you have paid media. That's advertising, and now that's boosting social media posts. That's paying for various channels out in the world. So what you do as a communication strategist is after you've figured out what do we want to achieve, where do we want to go, who do we want to talk to, what do we want to say to each of them, then you figure out which of these platforms are the best way to get your message out. So for some of our clients will use all three of these. It's about activating their channels, it's about activating the journalists, it's about activating influencers, and it's about a killer advertising strategy that really amplifies everything they do. Some, they have no budget. Paid media is immediately out. Some, earned media isn't quite yet an opportunity. They're still developing who they are. Or, media doesn't understand them yet. So even if we can get a story, it won't be the story we want to tell. And I'll say, you know what? Let's focus at home. Let's start telling your messages. Let's own that. Let's really build your brand. And then we bring in the journalists. And then we convince them that everything you're saying is true. Because now the proof will be in the pudding. We can show them. We'll have 2 years of X or Y to say, look, now don't you want to write about it? Come do an interview. And then maybe we'll have an amazing article by a journalist in the FT and we'll think, yes, paid media, let's post this on Facebook and amplify it. We want everyone to read it. So that's right there actually a perfect combination of all three happening in sync. When a journalist writes about a story, you post it on your Facebook page as an organization, and then you pay to boost it and create a further echo chamber. I'll just do 2 quick case studies. I could go on for hours because we work with a lot of clients all over the world, doing a lot of different things. Museums, galleries, nonprofits, corporate brands. But I'm just going to show you 2 case studies where we focused on different elements to give you a different idea about how we think strategically with clients. So this last year, I was having separate conversations with 2 galleries who were both talking to me about just wanting PR for forthcoming exhibitions. And yet I was hearing the same thing from both of them, that actually they had inverse problems. One with a gallery in New York, who really struggled to get press in Europe. Another with a gallery in Europe, who had just opened in New York, and was really struggling to get press in New York. And then both of them happened to have an artist that they shared who was having exhibitions coming up at local places. An artist who I've known personally for many, many years, because I used to live in LA and worked with way back when. So I said, well, this is a great opportunity. Let's create a moment for Doug and cross-promote. We'll do work for each of you individually, but let's also pitch this holistically as the moment of Doug. Let's do profiles that mention you both. You'll both get better coverage, and we can create a long tail effect. Some of the trouble galleries have is that their shows are too short. They're on this churn and burn exhibition calendar where they have to get shows in and out, and often by the time the press are excited about them, they're closing. So we came on just before 303 was opening with lots of time for president. And what we were able to do was create a lot of shortly press for 303, and then use that to garner long requests for President Hoover, both of which mentioning each other, and all of which highlighting Doug, who is the most important factor for both of them. So that's really what we did, was we worked with them to figure out what the solutions were and how to achieve that. And it wasn't just going to be for them. Here are some of the results you can see. Global media placements, 53 magazine articles, articles that ran in advance, newspaper articles. And these results become really tough to achieve when you're on that churning on that training system. So that's why this was such a great opportunity for them, that we could force them both to step back and create a bigger echo chamber for both of them. So here's just a few examples of the coverage we were able to get. We never would have been able to get departures for 303 because the lead time wasn't long enough. So it made the show 3 times as long, which was really effective for them. But another thing we did, which worked really, really well, we also focused on publications' social media presence. And we reached out not just to journalists, but also to the people running major publications channels. And we said, all right, this article is coming. What can we do to create this echo chamber effect as well? And we really leveraged things like T Magazine's online presence. Because maybe not that many people actually read T, or maybe different people are looking at it online. So this enables us to really further create an echo chamber through earned media that isn't our own channels, but is really getting the message out there in a much, much broader way. Second example I'll show you is BMW Group Culture. And 2 years ago when we took over their social media channels, they were performing pretty abysmally. They had incredible content they were doing in real life. They created these channels, and yet no one knew where to find them or what they would find when they went there, and they weren't engaging with them. So we sat down with them to develop a strategy about how we were going to, level these, up-level these channels, make them much more exciting, make them resonate much more, but then also how we would then get those channels out there so that people would see them. So we developed a strategy whereby we took them in 1 year from 12,000 followers to nearly 50,000 followers. A 294% increase in audience. The impression increase was huge as well. We got them to, when we sat down with them, they had under, you can see there, 193,000 average daily impressions by the end and 4 million total impressions. Those numbers felt impossible when we started and when they asked for KPIs that high. They actually asked for 3 million, and I told them they were crazy. But because they listened to us, because we were able to, change the content, really figure out through experimentation what was resonating with the audience, what they wanted to see, we were able to look at KPIs like engagement, like follower growth, like impression, audience reach, see where our audiences were coming from and how we could go get them more. And then, of course, we came up with an advertising strategy. We said, okay, what are our key moments of the year? When do we have our best content? That's what we want to post. What content performs the best? Pretty logical that art cars do very well. It's their sweet spot. It's the art and it's the car. They're unique. So we developed a campaign around that resonated really well. We initiated a Facebook Live campaign at the moment Facebook was launching lives to give people behind the scenes access to a lot of these events they were doing that otherwise no one even knew they were doing. And we were able to take them amazing places. So those were the Facebook results. Now if you're on Instagram, you can see even better, 400% increase in audience. We took them to more than 7 million impressions and a monthly reach from 8K to nearly 40K. So these results are not typical, I will say, but they really show what can be achieved when you have a client who actually has terrific content, just isn't utilizing it. We'll let you plan ahead and say, okay, actually, let's think about this launch and get the right content in advance. And then we'll let you take the lead on how to market it, how to reach out to the audience, how to speak to them in a language they just weren't familiar with. They're a corporation. But the art world speaks a very particular language, and you have to speak to them in that language. Thank you.
Sharing your insights in the arts communication field. Actually, I have a so back to the reality, and the reality in Korea, most of the organizations and galleries are, they don't have much resource for the communications and PR. Those of you experts like those two companies sounds like very expensive for me. And it's a kind of very basic, simple question. Still, many of the Korean organizations, they have very limited resources. So, and also, they they have to do very traditional things for something. They have to make print material, they have to make the posters and banners on the bus or subway, for 30, more than like 4 years, they have to do the same thing, and plus digital marketing we have to do. So I do have a question, and two questions for all of you. So what is the communication paradigm already shifted over 10 years, but still we have to do what we have to do, traditional way. We have to spend the same money, and we also have to spend another extra money for digital marketing. So what do you think about these issues? And another question is, so many institutions are doing the same, e-newsletter, marketing thing, and also communication PR company. And I have every week, I think more than 500, 1,000, e-newsletters from lots of organizations and PR company. Yeah, I have over 300 at the moment. So how to survive from the overflow of the kind of e-newsletter in the articles
Okay, the two things you just said there, I think is one of the biggest challenges in terms of marketing, arts and culture. As you move forward, you have to figure out ways you can let go of the past. And a lot of this is about appropriate scale. Often people say to me, I want to have posters on buses, and it's not appropriate. If you can't stick something up there that everybody understands, it's not the right place to do that. So you have to pick the right format for the right exhibition. So there's a habit, but a lot of times it's the people driving that habit of print often are curators, it's museums, they like to have that tactile thing. You have to really keep it off it. Otherwise the danger is limited budgets, do a bit of everything, but nothing has an effect. We're moving forward, definitely in terms of Hong Kong, working towards a digital-first approach. And that really means a mobile-first approach. You have a strategy for how you deal with social media, Facebook, you have a strategy for WeChat, you have a strategy for these different platforms, and you have to look at what you can remove from the equation. Until you get to the point where you go back to communicating with the majority, then you can go back and go, that's what it happens to happen, isn't it? Regarding e-news, and the e-news is incredibly important, but it goes back to saying trust. You get 500 of them, and then obviously you know that these people are affected, you're almost spamming. It's up to organisations to be disciplined. We only email twice a month, and we get disciplined about how we do it. And we keep a close look at our open rates, our click-through rates, and we look at those as our KPIs. Because you want to see how people engage with them. You should be hearing. I'd rather have a smaller list and get good engagement than just grow it. Or you have to segment very, very carefully to make sure the right messages, make sure the subject right. Because again, people get very selective. But it is a scary thing because often you're suffering from other people's processes, even if you're responsible, you don't know other people are going to be responsible for how they use data. So it's an unknown area.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say don't just do more, do what you're doing better. That's more important. Whenever people are first starting in social media, they feel really overwhelmed, right? There's so many platforms out there. Well, okay, so I guess we need a Pinterest page and this and no, you don't have to be everywhere. You really need to focus and make sure everything you're doing is for the right reasons and accomplishing something for you. Don't just do it because you've always done it. Know why you're doing it and make sure it's achieving what you want it to be achieving. So I would say the first step is an audit. With all of our clients, first-time clients, that is the first step if they really want to achieve something. You don't go straight to external communications in any form. Obviously, you don't always have that luxury, but the first step is an audit. And all that means is look at what you're doing. It doesn't have to be fancy. Yes, the ones we do are very fancy and involve a lot of things in competitive landscapes and statistics and analysis. But make a list. I went in recently to a museum who hired me for just a couple days of on-site consultation around some of their marketing initiatives. We didn't have much money, but they wanted me to come in and just give them advice, basically, and call out the real egregious errors. And so I walked in, and the first day, all I did was listen. And at the end of the day, I said to them, do you know how many email newsletters you send every week? 17. That's appalling. Do you know that you have no idea how many of those are going to the same people? I guess at least half, if not more. You're not segmenting your audiences. You're not tailoring your messages. So you tell me you have no staff time to take on this over here that I'm telling you is important. I'm telling you you're wasting staff time generating HTML for 17 newsletters that when I glance at these click rates, you shouldn't bother writing 2 words, let alone the time you're investing in this. What are we doing? First, take stock, make a list. What are all the things we're right now creating? Out-of-home banners, social media posts per week, how many newsletters per week, how many ads, how many press releases. Just make a list, that's all it is. A laundry list of everything you're doing. Then ask yourself, why are we doing that? Go down the list, each one. Why are we doing this? Who do we think we're talking to? Do they actually like it? Are they reading it? Are they responding to it? Are they engaging with it? If not, perhaps we need to rethink. Perhaps we can look at this list and take this list of 30 things we're doing and realize we can easily condense them to 10 great things rather than 30 things that we're currently doing pretty meh and not actually reaching anyone. Let's figure out, okay, we've got these 10 segments of our population, these early adopters, the people who are, hardcore advocates and come often, and then these people who just occasionally dip their toe in for a ticket. How are we going to market to each of them? What are the best channels for them? And then create a plan for yourself. Strategy sounds really scary as a word to people. It's not, it's a plan. I like to call it a roadmap with a lot of our clients when they feel overwhelmed by the term strategy, because a roadmap implies directions. And really a strategy should have that as well, but it's just a vernacular choice that many people are comfortable with. Let's make a roadmap. You're here, you want to be here. What's the best way to get there? And what can we dump off this bus along the way that we're wasting our time and our resources on? Because you're right. Right now, there's so many more places out there, so many more platforms. But oftentimes, when the clients that they can't afford us, I can find the money in things they're already spending that they shouldn't do. I'll just say, let me sit down with your budgets. Let me tell you what you're doing, that the ROI on an hour with me is so much more higher. And they can right, we are expensive, and not everyone has those resources. Everyone can do what we do. We just bring global perspective. We have different filters and lenses to apply. But everyone can do the same things on a scaled down way and really just get back to basics.
I just want to add, as you use galleries as an example, I think for quite a lot of galleries, there's a set system for every single new exhibitions, a VIP dinner, an opening for press, opening for VIP, and then catalog, street, pre-net, newspaper, a lot of system they have already set, and they never really review. They never really review does it work for their clients. And then also for every single exhibitions, I think it's always very hard for the first step to sit down and think about what you need and what you want to achieve. But then, and then also sometimes people think, oh, it takes a lot of time to make change, but actually it's not. When you spend this time and then everything is more effective and efficient, like when you sit down to see every single exhibition, for example, just take 6 months as an example. I'm not quite sure how the gallery roster here, but in Hong Kong 6 months maybe like 4 to 6 exhibitions already. So just take a look at these 4 to 6 exhibitions. Who do you really want to achieve? Like performing arts, do you really think older generation will be interested, or younger generations think for installations, who will be interested, photography? Just think about who you want to reach, as I just mentioned about all the planning process, and then allocate your time, allocate your money, and then think about which platforms you should use. And it's actually not that expensive. Some exhibitions you may use more for digital platforms, some exhibitions, maybe yes, you need to pay ad, it's very new, maybe paid ad reach some collectors in the art world, but then when you really sit down and try to allocate your time on each channel and your money on each medium is not that expensive. Yeah, but just, I think the first step always like scare people away a bit, very terrifying when they have to think about, oh, I need to make a big change on my current program or current system of doing things.
Okay, thank you.